If you're looking for ways to turn a corner on a serger, you can do it one of two ways. You could easily just serge right off the edge and come back on a second serging line and then just fray check the corner, because eventually you're going to have to cut off that little tail from the next time you start. But if you don't want to have to fray check a corner, one way is to go ahead and stitch right up to the edge. And I'm just putting a little 3-thread finished edge on the outside of this block. I played with some little bit of flat locking and wove some ribbon through it. So I'm just going to go around the edge so it could be handled and not turn into a frayed out mess. So the idea is that you go ahead and follow the stitches right down to the very edge of the stitch. Bring the needle all the way up, raise the presser foot, and just kind of slide it out. You're going to notice that the last stitch is kind of on those little pins that are in the stitch plate. So you're going to kind of wiggle it out, bring it around the front. I usually just line it up with the knife since I was barely trimming. But if I was cutting something off, I would have pre-trimmed a small little cut right into my fabric, so when I turned, I was ready to cut the new distance from the edge. But since I'm not, now I've kind of handled this, it's kind of pulled out a little bit, so instead of having a whole bunch of threads down there, reach up to the top here and gently kind of pull the threads back into the serger. Just kind of take some of the slack out. Now, one thing you'll notice that if you actually come to the side of the serger right here, you're going to notice that needles are actually angled to the fabric. They're not straight up and down like a sewing machine. So it's a little deceiving when you're trying to line up this needle to come down right near the edge. So that might take a couple tries as you bring it down or lower it close to the fabric. Before you set the presser foot down, you can kind of see where it's going to come all the way close to the corner. So the idea is that you don't have, oh gosh, that actually turned out better than most of my corners, tell you the truth, but there's no little extra lip of thread, and the only thing I have to worry about is where I started. So after I turn the rest of the corners, come down to the original starting point, come right off the edge, fray check one corner instead of 4, and it's going to look ideal. So I'm going to just finish stitching all of this around, turning those corners, trimming off hardly anything. I'm really just giving a little haircut here, right off the edge, not too many stitches further. Give it a little twirl, line it up, bring the slack out of the needles, and start again.